Hello, Scott Maddox calling. So a quick word about a useful aspect of model agnosticism, which is a bit of a mouthful to say, and I may start working up alternate ways to describe the process. I didn't coin the term, but it is a mouthful, and it's potentially a little confusing. Often in life, we don't know what's going on. Possibly always. Also, often in life, we want to know what's going on. Possibly always. And so, often in life, we make up a story about what's going on. Possibly always. Sometimes it's pretty basic stuff, and it works just fine. We go about life, and we don't walk into walls, and we pay our bills, and we have conversations that more or less match our expectations. Sometimes things are so etheric, it doesn't much matter. Honestly, day to day, your views on what happens in the afterlife don't really matter that much unless you get to a point where your belief in an afterlife or lack thereof includes some aspect where it's your job to convince others. But there's this sort of middle ground where, in particular in dealing with other people, where we don't always know what's going on. And being humans, we want to know what's going on. And being humans, we form a theory, an idea, a model of what's going on. And often as not, we do it based on nowhere near enough information to make a comprehensive decision like that. So, for example, say I walk up to you and say, "Nice shoes," and then walk away. If you're of an optimistic mind, you may consider that a compliment. If you're of a pessimistic mind, you may consider that sarcasm. If you've known me for a while, you may be able to make a guess based on previous conversations and what you understand of me. But you'll never know for sure unless you ask. And even then, I could be lying. So really, ultimately, you'll never know for sure, and there's no way to know for sure. You can, as I say, make decent guesses. But here's what happens. Based on the past, based on our history, based on our view of the world and how it works, based on the assumptions you make about me, based on what information you do have, you're going to decide. You are going to decide whether I'm being sarcastic or not. And typically you will assume that this is real, that this is not your decision, that you're figuring out what's right, what's true, whereas you never will have enough data to know. So here's my alternative, right? And as with everything I talk about, I didn't originate this idea. I'm sharing it with you as something that I've tried that works out well for me. Choose knowingly an interpretation, right? Choose an interpretation that works for you, right? Simple as that. If I assume that you're being a sarcastic asshole, what does that do for me? If I assume you're complimenting me, what does that do for me? Typically, I will opt to choose an interpretation that is A, possible. This is apparently my A finger. And B, leaves me feeling good about life, right? Or at least leaves me not hating you. Someone once said, never attribute to malice what can be explained by simple ignorance. I find, particularly when dealing with politics or with people with very different ideas of how to behave when conspiracy seems a possibility. If I remember this, that, actually, it makes more sense that people are just stupid or ignorant or confused than that they're willfully being malicious. And in fact, I think that we all do the best we can with what we've got. And there's no way to prove this view of the world or of people or of an individual person. There's no way. There just simply is no way for me to know enough to say definitively this is so or this is not so. But it makes it easier for me to deal with other people to adopt this idea. And I know it's a provisional idea. I know it's something that I'm creating, but it works for me. And I'm willing to accept new data that will alter this view. But based on no other evidence, why would I choose the story that makes me angry, or sad, or frustrated, or despondent? Choose the one that makes me happy, or empowered, or at the very least sympathetic. It makes my life go better. So, if I have no evidence to the contrary, I'll assume you're complimenting me. When the guy drove by, while I was walking down the road in San Diego, the guy drove by, stuck his head out the window of his car, and yelled out, "Jesus wore a frozen Speedo." I didn't know the guy, I didn't know the car, and the phrase seems pretty meaningless. So, what do I do with that? Was he making fun of me? Was he trying to impart some great wisdom? Was he just being surreal? I don't know. Was it a phrase that in some way meant something to him, and he was just excited, shouting it out? I don't know. Was he just trying to make me laugh? I don't know. So, I kind of mull over these ideas, and I will never know why this guy yelled, "Jesus wore a frozen Speedo" at me. Probably. I mean, he might be, about ready to knock on my door right now. But, as much as I would like to be comfortable in I don't know, that would be kind of the Zen thing, I don't know, and I'm okay with that. And that's something I strive for. If I'm going to be making up a story about it, if I'm going to choose a story about it, much better that I'm intentional about it, and I choose a story that leaves me feeling good. I'd like to think that he just wanted to add a moment of surreality to my life. That was a phrase that just jumped out of his head, just spontaneously, no planning, no forethought. He saw me walking down the road, and he said, "I'm going to give this guy a bit of strange in his day, because I think that's good for people." And that's the story I'm going with. So, just try this idea out. See how it works for you.
Scott is calling me.
Over and out.
I'm in a zone. I gotta see my doctor. Scott is calling me. Scotty, I'm in a zone. I wanna fly.